Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Project podcast. My name is Lewis Conde and my aim is to give you the tools to develop and improve your mindset. By drawing on my own experiences as a competitive swimmer, as well as the opinions and experiences of other incredible individuals, I hope to expose you to an alternative way of thinking. And in doing so, I hope that inspires some sort of personal growth. I believe that through mindset development, we can strive physically, mentally and emotionally. I hope you're all doing well, staying positive and staying healthy. So let's get on to it. Welcome back to the Mindset Project podcast. It's been a very long time. Well, I say a long time. There was an episode last week, but before that, I just basically intended to take a week's reset from the podcast because I had a lot of university assignments, and it was just like a very, very busy period. And I did actually record last week's episode the week that I planned to take my week off. But then obviously a lot of things just came up and it just became like really overwhelming. So I was like, I'm just going to take a week off. And then before I knew it, it was like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and so on. So I just put the podcast on the back burner for the moment and just to get all those things sorted. So I am back and very excited to get stuck in. So like I mentioned in last week's episode, I think I want to delve more into like a deeper level and a deeper way of thinking in the next sort of episodes, and I really want to try and change your perspective and really get you thinking about things around you. That's one of the whole one of the whole aims of this podcast, I guess, is to try and get you to look at things differently. And if you did tune into last week's episode, I did mention that this episode would be on the law of attraction. So before I get into the nitty gritty of what the law of attraction is, the first thing to note is that it is always working. So it's always working, no matter what. And I guess you could almost just say it's like the law of gravity in a way. Like if you throw a ball in the air, then it's obviously going to come down because we know gravity, everything goes up, must come down. And gravity always works, like we know that. So the law of attraction works in the same way, and it's always working, whether that is for you or against you. Like it'll still work no matter what. And when I say that it'll work against you, what I mean by that is more so that it's going to work positively or negatively. So in the positive sense, it's going to work in a way where you're trying to manifest things and you get what you're trying to manifest, whereas if it's working negatively, then it's probably going to give you things that you're not really wanting to manifest. That is actually one of the rules of the law of attraction, and because it's always working, we don't actually get to choose whether it's working or what we attract, as it's always happening, if that makes sense. So obviously, as we delve into what the law of attraction is, basically we don't get to choose what we attract. We don't get to choose if it works or not, if that makes sense. Like I said literally a few seconds ago, it's always working. And one thing to note is that if you say that it's not working for you, then it's probably because you're not actually giving it the correct energy or the correct frequency. And if we look at in the simplest form, an example, if you smile at someone, for example, chances are they're going to smile back. And that is the law of attraction in action, because you're giving out an action, or you're giving out that frequency of happiness, smiling at someone, and they're giving it to you back. On the flip side, if you punch someone, then chances are they're going to react or retaliate to that, or like punch you, which again is like the almost negative side of law of attraction. You give out this negative action or this negative frequency, and you're going to get it back. Like that's genuinely how simple the law of attraction actually is. And it's basically what you get back, what you put in or what you put out there. And when I said it is always working, an example of this is like if you're in school, like you go to school and you work hard, you put in the effort to acquire knowledge, and then put in the time and the energy and that will be rewarded by doing well in an exam or a test, that sort of thing. And gratitude is also another example of the law of attraction. And I think I mentioned this briefly in the episode I did on gratitude. Like, the more you practice gratitude, the more things that will come into your life that will make you more grateful. And that's the law of attraction in action, because you're feeling grateful, and because is like an emotional feeling, your frequency changes, and this subconsciously changes your frequency to attract more things to be grateful for, if that makes sense. And when we use the law of attraction, we start to attract vibrations which we will send out, then we will start to believe. So how does it actually work? Well, this is a good question. So basically, our body is like a huge mass of energy and vibration, and we are literally made of atoms which are bouncing off each other. They're creating energy. Like, you can't, when atoms move, obviously that's movement, and movement is energy. And because of this energy, our body is always moving. And something to completely like blow your mind right now, if you look at a dead body through a microscope, obviously a dead body, so the person's dead, you'll automatically think that, they're not moving, they're dead, right? Well, if you look at their body through a microscope, the body will still be moving, because the body still has to decompose, and decomposition requires energy and movement. So even when someone's dead, their body is still moving. And obviously decomposition is also like a chemical reaction, and obviously you need some sort of energy source for a chemical reaction to take place. So our bodies are always moving, and we're basically a huge frequency and energy. And we all know that we have our conscious and our subconscious minds. Now, when we were younger, our subconscious mind was actually more open, and we covered all sorts of information which we kind of stored there. And some of this information was things like habits, memories, things that kind of made us developed our personality, I guess. And some scientists like to call this the paradigm, which is basically just energy. And when we think in a specific energy, as in we're thinking this into our minds, we put ourselves into a specific vibration, and it is this vibration which produces specific results. For example, the law of attraction. Now, I'm an absolute sucker for a good motivational quote, and one you might have heard of a lot is "thoughts become things." And this is exactly what this is referring to. The sort of mindset we are in can actually help us manifest things around us. That's basically what the law of attraction is in the most simplest form. Obviously, you can just look at it really simply like that, or you can actually delve into it a little bit more. And I think the length of this episode is really going to depend on how deep I actually go. I don't think I'll go too deep, but we'll see where it goes. Now, it is results that we want to change through the law of attraction, and in order to do that, we need to change what we are attracting. And the thoughts that we think control the vibration, which is obviously in the subconscious, that we're in. Now, another example of the law of attraction is in relation to people. So we may in fact actually attract people into our lives which align with our particular vibration. So obviously, we don't have the same people in our lives from when we were born until the day we die. People come in and people go out, etc. And I think that is down to the vibration that we send out. Like, our vibration, the thing with vibration is that it always changes, so it goes up and it goes down. And that's the thing with the law of attraction. If it goes down, we'll attract things that might not be that great, but when it's up, we might attract better things, and so on. And we also attract people we don't necessarily like, but only through our subconscious or unconsciously, and because of that, we don't actually think that we're attracting those people, if that makes sense. So you might be in a really bad relationship, and this could be like multiple relationships where you've been thinking, why am I attracting these people? Like, I always attract the bad guys, the bad girls, whatever. And that's because probably you're subconsciously thinking about a specific type of person. So you might actually be subconsciously thinking about the person that you don't want, and because of that you're actually sending out a vibration which is attracting that person. Now, we might think that we get to choose who comes into our lives or who we meet, but do we actually? Is it actually our choice, or is there another force at play? Something to think about. And going back to what I said earlier about our bodies vibrating, everything vibrates. Everything that we can see, everything we can touch vibrates. It's made up of atoms and elements which interact with each other. So everything around us is basically a huge vibration. You know, the pillows in your bedroom, things that you can touch, your radiator, the water in the swimming pool, the water in the ocean, everything is basically a vibration and energy. It's mad, isn't it? And going back to the conscious mind, we can think of everything we want to think of, right? So I can think of apples, I can think of painting the wall, I can think of giving a gorilla a high five. We can choose to think that, and we can create ideas, things coming in, and eventually these ideas and thoughts can actually materialize into something, so that things coming out, because obviously we get that idea which comes into our head, and then we materialize that, so that's coming out into the actual, it's coming into the real world. It's coming into reality, I guess you could call it. I was trying to think of another word to say, but I can't think of it. And if you get the results that you don't necessarily want, then it's the paradigm which is the problem. So the paradigm is, in the subconscious. And an example of this is poverty consciousness. Now, when people say things like, "Oh, I'm never going to be rich, I'm always going to be in a bad situation," well, if you think like that, then you will continue to attract lacking and a sort of limitation, because you're sort of in that sort of mindset of thinking that you're not going to be that rich, or you're not going to be that successful. Then that's just going to send out a vibration which is going to attract that. Like, law of attraction is whatever you want, you have to send out. And another way to look at this, if you look at people who have multiple degrees, like having multiple degrees, easy enough for me to say, is obviously a great feat. But if you have nothing to show for it, then that's down to the law of attraction. People might have these degrees, but they might not be successful, or they might not have a good job. And this is because they're not seeking to attract what they're looking for. And you need to change the paradigm. And one thing to note about the law of attraction is that it won't work if you know something isn't there. So basically, if you know you're struggling financially and are trying to manifest money, chances are it won't just magically appear. You have to have some sort of action for it to happen. Or if you're single and want to manifest your soulmate or your dream partner, then they're not just going to manifest through thin air onto your bed. So instead of focusing on what you don't have or what you don't want, you have to think of what you want and manifest that, if that makes sense. The thing with the law of attraction is that it can get really confusing thinking about how, if you think about it at a very deep level, it can get quite confusing. So if you've managed to stay, then thank you. So energy is vibration, and obviously vibrations go up and down. Now, the stronger the vibration, then that is obviously going to have a stronger pull, as results attracts faster. And when we see something in our reality that we don't like, instead of blaming others or pointing fingers at things, maybe we should look within ourselves and ask why, and change that internal vibration. Look at the paradigm in your subconscious mind and change what's going on there, and that will attract different vibrations. So we're basically conditioning ourselves, or reprogramming our minds to attract what we want, basically. And everything around us we have full control over, and I'm sure I've said this in a previous episode, how we react to the things around us is entirely our choice, and it's entirely in our hands. And how we react can send out a vibration which starts the law of attraction. So I think that's a good place to kind of come to a close. Like, I think I've kind of covered everything that I really wanted to say. Obviously, you could probably go into things a lot deeper. Like, I don't study the law of attraction in like so much detail that I know like a whole lot about it. Like, I really only know kind of scratching the surface sort of thing, which is kind of what this episode has been about. I mean, it is quite a big topic, and again, like, it really depends on how deep you want to go. But what is the law of attraction? So it's basically something that happens to us every day, happens all the time, and it's something we can't control, but we can, if that makes sense. We can't control it happening, but we can control the frequency that comes in and what goes out, etc. And the key thing is that it is always working, and the law of attraction states that that we attract what we focus on. So if we're focusing on things that annoy us or make us feel negative in any way, then we're going to attract more of that. So instead of focusing on our problems, focus on things that we can solve or things that we want to achieve from our problems, if that makes sense. And in order to start attracting what we want, we need to change our thoughts or our paradigm. Our body is like a vibration and energy, and by altering our vibration through our thoughts, we can actually start to attract what we hope to. And what the law of attraction wants us to do is actually focus on positive things in order for us to attract positive things. So most of us don't actually follow the law of attraction because we are always worrying about different things. We're worrying about our financial situation, we're worried about our relationships, we're worried about university, school, whatever. And what we need to do is actually rewire or reprogram ourselves to look at problems and what you can do to fix it. Now, you need to do it with some confidence, and when it starts to work, you begin to be more confident in your own actions, and you feel better because you're attracting more positive things. And it's almost as if you project your reality onto the world than the world projecting it onto you. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Like I said, law of attraction will only be as deep as you go into it, and obviously there's so much information on the internet if you want to do further research or look into it a little bit more. But I hope the level I've went into it is good enough for you and you get something from it. And with that, I say stay positive, stay fit, stay safe, and I shall see you on the next one.